What would you do if the most powerful king on earth demanded you abandon your God or die? This is the story of Daniel. A teenager ripped from his homeland, dragged hundreds of miles to the heart of an empire built to make him forget who he was. But Daniel did not forget. In Babylon, he faced impossible choices. A king who could crush him with a word, a court filled with men who wanted him dead, and a faith that put him on a collision course with every power in the known world. His three closest friends were thrown into a furnace so hot it killed the soldiers who brought them there. And when Nebuchadnezzar looked into the flames, he stumbled back in shock.
But I see 4 men. They are walking freely in the flames, unharmed. And the 4th back here, he looks like a son of the gods.
And Daniel himself, thrown into a den of lions, sealed with the king's own ring, with nothing but a prayer and a lifetime of faithfulness. Because Daniel's story will challenge what you believe about courage, about faith, and about standing alone when the whole world bows down. If you've ever felt forgotten or tested beyond your limit, this story was written for you. Let's begin. In the days when Judah still had kings, the armies of Babylon came. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, marched against Jerusalem. Jehoiakim, king of Judah, saw the forces gathered against him and surrendered. There was no siege, no fire, only submission. From that day, Judah served Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar took what he wanted. He carried away sacred vessels from the house of God, gold and silver set apart for worship, and placed them in the treasury of his own gods. But the vessels were not all he took. He commanded Ashpenaz, his chief official.
Bring me their finest kais, young men of royal blood, without blemish, quick to learn. They will serve in my palace.
Ashpenaz obeyed. He selected youths from the royal family and the nobility of Judah, and among those chosen was a boy named Daniel, a name that meant, God is my judge. He was perhaps 15 years old. The road to Babylon stretched hundreds of miles. Daniel walked for weeks, leaving behind everything he had ever known. When they finally saw Babylon, it rose before them like nothing they had ever imagined. Massive walls, towering gates covered in glazed blue brick, statues of gods they did not know. It was a city built to make them forget who they were. But Daniel would not forget. 3 other young men from Judah had been chosen with him: Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Together, they entered the king's training program, 3 years designed to remake them into Babylonians. Each was given a new Babylon name. Daniel became Belteshazzar, a name honoring Bel, a Babylonian god. Hananiah became Shadrach. Mishael became Meshach. Azariah became Abednego. They were taught the language of the empire and its literature. Then came the food. The young men were given meals from the king's own table, rich food and fine wine. But Daniel knew that eating this food would make him unclean before God. He could not do it. He approached Ashpenaz, the chief official, and made a request. But Ashpenaz was afraid.
If the king sees you looking worse than the others, he will have my head.
So Daniel turned to the steward and proposed a test.
Give us nothing but vegetables and water for 10 days. Then compare us to the others.
The steward agreed. When the 10 days ended, Daniel and his friends looked healthier and stronger than all who ate the king's food. God honored their faithfulness. He gave them knowledge and wisdom beyond their years. And to Daniel, he gave something more: the ability to understand visions and dreams. A gift would soon be tested. One night, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. He woke shaken, his mind troubled. He knew the dream was important, but he could not remember it. He summoned his magicians, enchanters, and wise men, but he did not simply ask for an interpretation. He demanded the impossible.
Tell me the dream and its meaning. If you cannot, you will be cut to pieces. If you can, you will be honored above all men.
The wise men were stunned. They pleaded with the king. Tell us the dream and we will explain it. But no one on earth can do what the king asks. Only the gods could reveal such a thing, and they do not live among men. Nebuchadnezzar exploded with rage. He ordered every wise man in Babylon to be executed. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to carry out the sentence, Daniel and his friends were on the list. Daniel spoke to him calmly and asked what had happened. Then he went before the king and asked for time. That night, Daniel gathered Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Together, they prayed, begging the God of heaven for mercy. And God answered. In a vision during the night, he revealed the mystery to Daniel. Daniel did not rush to the palace. First, he praised God.
Blessed be your name forever. Wisdom and power belong to you. You reveal deep and hidden things. You know what lies in darkness, and light dwells with you.
Daniel went to Arioch.
Do not execute the wise men. Bring me before the king. I will tell him the meaning.
Arioch brought Daniel before Nebuchadnezzar. The king said, "Are you able to tell me what I saw and what it means?" Daniel did not take credit.
No wise man or enchanter can do what the king asks. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. And he has shown you what will happen in days to come.
Then Daniel described the dream. You saw a great statue, enormous and dazzling. Its head was pure gold, its chest and arms were silver, its belly and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, its feet were partly iron and partly clay. Then a stone, cut without human hands, struck the statue at its feet. The whole statue shattered. The wind swept away the pieces like chaff, but the stone became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Nebuchadnezzar listened, astonished. Daniel continued with the meaning. You, O king, are the head of gold. God has given you power and glory over all the earth. After you, other kingdoms will rise, each one inferior to the one before. But in the end, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. It will crush all other kingdoms and stand forever. Nebuchadnezzar fell to the ground before Daniel.
Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings. He alone reveals mysteries.
That day, the king promoted Daniel to ruler over the entire province of Babylon. And at Daniel's request, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were appointed to help govern the land. Time passed, and Nebuchadnezzar's pride grew. He built an enormous statue of gold, 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura. Then he summoned every official in the kingdom to its dedication. A herald proclaimed the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, and every kind of music, you must fall down and worship the golden image. Whoever does not bow will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. The music played. Across the plain, every official fell to the ground. But 3 men remained standing: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Certain officials noticed. They had watched these foreigners rise to power, and jealousy had taken root. Now they had their chance. They went before the king. "O king, live forever. You commanded that everyone bow to the image. But there are certain Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you appointed over the province. They pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden statue." Nebuchadnezzar was furious. He summoned the 3 men and gave them one final chance.
Is it true? When the music plays, will you bow? If not, you will be thrown into the furnace. And what god will be able to save you from my hand?
Their answer came without hesitation.
We do not need to defend ourselves. The God we serve is able to save us from the furnace and from your hand. But even if he does not, we will not bow.
The king's face twisted with rage.
Heat the furnace 7 times hotter.
He commanded his strongest soldiers to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were tied up, still wearing their robes and tunics, and dragged to the furnace. The heat was so fierce that the flames killed the soldiers who brought them to the opening. The 3 men fell into the fire. Then Nebuchadnezzar leapt to his feet and said, "Did we not throw 3 men into the fire?" His advisors answered, "Certainly, O king."
But I see 4 men. They are walking freely in the flames, unharmed. And the 4th, he looks like a son of the gods.
The king approached the opening of the furnace and called out, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out." They walked out of the fire. Every official gathered around and saw it for themselves. The flames had not touched them. Their hair was not singed. Their robes were not burned. There was not even the smell of smoke on them. Nebuchadnezzar stood before the crowd and declared,
Praise be to their God, who sent his angel to rescue his servants. They trusted in him and defied my command. They were willing to die rather than worship any god except their own. No other god can save like this.
He issued a decree. Anyone who spoke against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be cut to pieces. And the 3 men were promoted to even higher positions in Babylon. Years had passed. Daniel was no longer a young man. His hair had begun to gray and he had served Babylon for decades. But Nebuchadnezzar's heart remained his own. Then came another dream. He saw a great tree at the center of the earth. It grew until its top touched the sky and could be seen from the ends of the world. Birds nested in its branches. Animals rested in its shade. All living things were fed from it. Then a messenger came down from heaven and cried out, "Cut down the tree, strip its branches and scatter its fruit, but leave the stump in the ground, bound with iron and bronze. Let him be drenched with dew. Let him live with the animals until 7 times pass over him, until he knows that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of men." Nebuchadnezzar woke terrified. His wise men could not explain it. So Daniel was summoned. When Daniel heard the dream, his face changed. He did not want to speak.
My lord, if only this dream were about your enemies. The tree is you, O king. You have grown great and strong. But you will be driven away from people. You will live with the wild animals and eat grass like an oxbella, until you acknowledge that the Most High rules over all kingdoms. Please, O king, turn from your sins. Perhaps God will show you mercy.
12 months later, Nebuchadnezzar stood on the roof of his palace, gazing over the city.
Is this not great Babylon, which I have built by my own power and for my own glory?
The words were still on his lips when a voice came from heaven. Your kingdom is taken from you. Something broke behind his eyes. His thoughts scattered like startled birds. He stumbled from the rooftop, no longer knowing his own name. He was driven from his throne, from his palace, from the company of men. He wandered the fields, eating grass like an ox. His hair grew long like feathers. His nails became like claws. 7 years passed. Then one day, he lifted his eyes toward heaven, and his sanity returned.
Now I praise and honor the King of Heaven. Everything he does is right. She is able to humble those who walk in pride.
His kingdom was restored, but Nebuchadnezzar was no longer the same man. Nebuchadnezzar eventually died. Thrones passed from hand to hand until Belshazzar, a descendant of Nebuchadnezzar, took the kingdom. By then, Daniel had served Babylon for a lifetime, and the court had forgotten him. Belshazzar didn't have respect for the God of Israel. One night, he held a great feast for 1,000 of his lords. Wine flowed freely, and as the king grew drunk, he gave a reckless command. Bring the gold and silver vessels that Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem. The sacred cups were brought. Belshazzar and his guests drank wine from them and praised their gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Then it happened. A human hand appeared out of nowhere and began writing on the palace wall. Just the fingers, moving slowly across the plaster. The king's face went pale. He ordered the wise men to read it. They couldn't. Then the queen entered. She remembered a man the court had long forgotten. There is a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. His name is Daniel. Send for him. Daniel was brought before the king and said,
Keep your gifts, but I will read the writing. Your grandfather Nebuchadnezzar was humbled by God until he acknowledged that the Most High rules over kingdoms. You knew all this, yet you have not humbled yourself. Instead, you drank from the vessels of his temple and praised gods that cannot see or hear. So God sent this hand.
He read the words aloud.
Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin. That means God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. You have been weighed and found wanting. Your kingdom is given to the Medes and Persians.
That very night Babylon fell. Belshazzar was killed, and Darius the Mede took the kingdom. Under Darius, Daniel rose again. The new king appointed 120 officials to govern the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them. Daniel was one of the 3, but his wisdom and faithfulness set him apart, and Darius planned to place him over the entire realm. The other officials watched with envy. They searched for something to use against Daniel, any failure, any hint of corruption. They found nothing. His record was spotless. So they changed their approach.
We will never find grounds against this man unless it concerns the law of his God.
They devised a plan and brought it to the king together, making it seem as though every official had agreed. O King Darius, live forever. All the administrators have agreed that you should issue a decree. For the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or man except you shall be thrown into the den of lions. Sign the decree, O king, so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians. Darius was flattered. He did not see the trap. He signed the decree. The law could not be revoked. Daniel heard what the king had done. He knew exactly what it meant, but he did not waver. Daniel went home to his upper room facing toward Jerusalem. He knelt, as he always did, and gave thanks to his God. The officials were watching and found him praying. Then they went straight to the king.
Did you not sign a decree, O king? Anyone who prays to any god or man except you shall be thrown into the den of lions.
Darius answered, "The decree stands. It cannot be changed." Then know this: Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, pays no attention to you or your decree. He prays 3 times a day to his God. The king's heart sank. He realized he had been trapped. He worked until sunset, searching for any way to save Daniel, but the law of the Medes and Persians could not be undone. Daniel was brought to the den of lions. A stone was placed over the opening. The king sealed it with his own ring.
May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you.
That night, the king returned to his palace. He refused food. He refused entertainment. Sleep would not come. He lay in the darkness, waiting for dawn. At first light, he rushed to the den and cried out,
Daniel, servant of the living God highest, has your God been able to save you from the lions?
From the darkness came a voice.
O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions. I have been found innocent before him, and I have done no wrong to you.
The king was overjoyed. Daniel was lifted out of the den. There was not a scratch on him. Then Darius gave another order. The men who had accused Daniel were brought and thrown into the den, and the lions overpowered them before they reached the ground. Darius issued a decree to every nation under his rule.
I command that everyone must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. Us. He is the living God. His kingdom will never be destroyed. He rescues and saves. He performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions.
Daniel, now an old man, looked toward the west, toward Jerusalem, the city he had never seen again. The temple where his people had worshipped God had been destroyed by Babylon years after he was taken. He had kept faith through exile, through fire and through lions, through kings and kingdoms rising and falling, and Daniel prospered through the reign of Darius and into the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Before Daniel died, Cyrus issued a decree. The Jewish people could return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. The exile was ending. Daniel's prayers had been answered. And so Daniel, a boy taken from everything he knew, outlasted every king who tried to break him. What can we learn from this ancient story? From Daniel, we learn that faithfulness is built in the quiet moments. He did not suddenly become brave when they threw him to the lions. He had been kneeling at that same window, praying to the same God, every single day for decades. The lion's den was not where his faith was tested. It was where his faith was revealed. From Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we learn the most terrifying kind of courage. Faith without guarantees. They said, "Our God is able to save us, but even if he does not, we will not bow." They walked into the fire, not knowing if they would walk out. That is real faith. Not confidence that God will give you what you want, but trust in who He is, no matter what happens. From Nebuchadnezzar, we learn that no one is beyond the reach of God. The most powerful man on earth was brought to his knees, eating grass like an animal, until he finally looked up. And when he did, God restored him. Pride will take everything from us, but surrender is never too late. And behind it all, we see a shadow of something greater. Daniel was sealed in a tomb of stone and emerged alive. Centuries later, another man would be sealed behind a stone, and on the third day, he would rise. His name is Jesus. And like Daniel, he trusted his Father even in the darkest place. This is a story about standing when the world tells you to bow, about praying when it could cost you your life, about trusting a God who walks with you, even through the fire.